The new Lucid Gravity SUV could be one of the most important electric vehicles introduced in years. This thing promises huge range, incredible acceleration, it offers vast amounts of interior space, and it should have more amenities than a five-star resort. To learn the ins and outs of this exciting new SUV, Zeb Coughenour, Senior Manager of Interior Design at Lucid, is going to take us for a walkthrough.
Welcome to Lucid Studio in the Meatpacking District. I'm Zeb Coughenour. I'm an Interior Design Manager at Lucid Motors. I've been with the company for a little over 9 years now, and we're excited to share Gravity with you today. Starting with Gravity, we have to talk about a little bit of the history of SUVs and why we ended up with the platform we have. So in the beginning, SUV vehicles were more utility-based, uncomfortable to drive, and kind of were built to get the job done. Then into the 90s, you had a little bit more convenience for holding people, but they were often large and cumbersome on the road. Then onto the early 2000s to now, we've had the crossover segment. Better on-road capability, but often limited in space a good bit. So what we aim to achieve is a vehicle that has a lot less compromise on a smaller footprint and is overall way more efficient. So starting with the front end design of the vehicle, we have the Lucid Signature Light Blade, something similar to carryover from Air, but in Gravity, it's a lot more upright and gives the vehicle a more bold appearance and attitude for an SUV, giving it a great strength. Other updates are the DRL and the turn signal side markers. These are moved much higher and are more pronounced from the fascia, giving the vehicle better stance. Our high beam has also been moved into the same location.
You talked briefly about space efficiency. Can you speak to the platform and what you guys did to maximize interior room?
So just like Air, we design our space around the technology we have. So the utilization of how small we can make the motor and how we can package the battery of the vehicle, and that kind of sets up the wheelbase of the vehicle. From there, we push the forward occupants as far forward as possible, rear occupants as far rearward as possible. But in Gravity, we get into more of that, talking about a 7-seater vehicle and how you package a third row seat. Coming down the side of the vehicle, you can see our signature DNA line that connects the light lens from the front the whole way into the light blade at the rear. We have just one line that connects all features together. A lot of the surfacing really inspired by aeronautics, very clean, minimal, and something we see as would be more timeless in the future.
It's a very beautiful design.
Thank you. Onto the cabin shape. So to get very good efficiency, we have a very fast windscreen angle, giving it a lot of speed from side view, and a very upright rear glass. And that gives it a very unique proportion on the road that kind of stands out from the crowd. We have our signature clamshell design liftgate opening, which is a similar DNA from Air. But not only does this help with some interior aspects of the vehicle, it also allows us to achieve a 0.24 aero drag coefficient.
Impressive for such a large vehicle.
Yeah, like Prius, like the new Prius, for example, is higher than that. So
really,
for a vehicle that can hold 7 people, it's definitely a great achievement from our.
That's a lot of time
team.
in the wind tunnel, right? I mean, that's a lot of sweating the details to achieve that.
Our exterior design team and the aerodynamics team, they work very closely day by day getting this refined to the point where it's at. A lot of different studies on where the spoiler needs to be and how the diffuser is designed. They did many variations of this in the wind tunnel. We have our signature light blade, but this time in Gravity. It is a fully exposed light blade, so there's no cover lens. That way you can see the detail of all of the different ribs and the different details we carry throughout the car to make a theme. So even this similar detail, you can find places in the interior as well. Not only does the clamshell design help with aerodynamics, it also helps us to achieve a very low load floor height to help with cargo and maximum capacity of the trunk. So here you can see just how low this can be for a 7-passenger SUV. And this is in nominal ride height for the air suspension.
And surprisingly roomy behind the third row as
yeah.
well. That's a good amount of space, lengthwise. Yeah.
So we designed the rear to have a lot of space, even when 7 people are in the vehicle, and also that when the third row is stowed, it's pretty much invisible. You can drive the car every day in a 5-seater configuration and only pull the third row seat out when you need it. Let's talk about the wheels and the stance of the vehicle. So for Gravity, we have a staggered wheel setup. So the front wheel is a 22-inch wheel and the rear is a 23. Not only does this help with giving the vehicle a great presence and attitude on the road, but it also helps with aerodynamics.
Really? How does that help aerodynamics?
The different frontal space of the vehicle. So you get a smaller frontal coverage of air, and the rear's, away from that, so it spaces it out.
Gotcha. Off to the side here, we have the Lucid Air platform. The Gravity rides on a different architecture, but I would imagine they're pretty similar.
So it's similar setup in like the theory of how we build the platform. But for instance, in Air, this battery pack, to get our extra stack of battery packs for range, we do that under the bench seat. In Gravity, we do that under the first row seat because in an SUV you have a higher H point. The seats are often on risers, so we use that space to stack the battery packs.
So very similar but important differences.
In a different position.
Because why start from a clean sheet when you've got something that's already that
exactly.
efficient and good? Right?
And not only moving that battery pack to the bottom of the front seats helps with just storage of the battery, but also gives you incredible third row legroom. So we can't discuss Lucid without discussing frunks. It's our big thing. We're pride and joy of how we package all our components in the vehicle. And like with the large frunk in Air, that is a mostly carpeted frunk for extra cargo. But in Gravity, it's very large, but it's completely washable. And we see that this is a great feature for the SUV market. Consider this your dirty storage, your muddy boots, your sandy wetsuit. You put that in here, you go to the car wash when you're done, and you can power wash the frunk off, and it drains out the bottom.
Very nice. And it's a nice place to sit as well, right?
Exactly. So let's get into our favorite accessory. So something we see with tailgating and the trend of hanging out by your car in nature, watching sunsets or camping, what have you, we've created our frunk seat. And our frunk seat will be an accessory we offer, and it's designed to fit in here and be used for casual, whatever kind of events you're coming up with. And we also designed, while you're sitting here, full comfort, like memory foam. We also have cup holders in the frunk.
How nice.
So while you're relaxing.
That's perfect. Yeah. And probably a good segue to the interior as well.
So
let's do it.
So now we're in the front cabin of Gravity. This is really my pride and joy as an interior design manager for this. A lot of work went into designing the space, but the first key thing we have to look at is the clear view cockpit. So we are world's first OLED screen layout, completely unobstructed by the steering wheel. We work closely together with ergonomics, safety team, interior engineers to move the screen as high as possible without blocking road view, and moving the steering wheel as low as possible while not covering up the screen with the wheel. But not only did we move it down here, we also put a lot of work into the shape of the wheel, so it's still a full steering wheel. So it's really good for mountain driving roads, hand-over-hand control. Key is to be in full control, but also have all this information. So this is one seamless OLED screen, touch display. The instrument cluster here has car controls on the left, similar to Air, but this time they are dynamic, so you don't need all these car controls all the time. So while driving, they'll slide away to be a little bit more invisible.
Because you're not going to open the frunk on the freeway,
exactly.
Probably.
Frunk and trunk, normally not opened on the freeway. Then you have your ADAS, speedo, and all that in the center. And then we go to the right side of the IC, and this is more passenger and shared controls. This is all your media. And now we have these tiles. So you can swipe through different tile apps, and you can select which apps you want up here and really customize it. We still have, you can slide through to navigation, media, phone, and even in like music, you can slide through all of your Spotify albums. But another new benefit with Gravity is the steering wheel control design. So we have these new switches that are capacitive touch. So now you can decide whether you want to use touch screens or use the steering wheel controls to find what you're looking for. So these will be a swipe operation, and exactly how you would want them to work. It's left, right, up, down, press, and that will send you through these different tiles.
Other automakers have run into some problems with their touch-sensitive controls in the past. What have you guys done to prevent that?
So we're working closely with some great suppliers on this technology, but it's really how we use the capacitive technology. We're not using it to drag a cursor around the screen to point and pick certain things. We're using it the same way you would use your finger, which you don't slide your finger around the screen. You quickly swipe through options while driving. So it'll be the same interaction. So you can decide if you want to control it that way or with your hands, or the passenger can control it. Another feature kind of carryover from Air is our tiles sliding into the drawer of the CID design. So now you can slide your navigation and down, and that comes into the central control screen. So here you can also customize. If I want my media up here, I'm playing my Spotify, and navigation down here, that is an option. Or I can do the opposite, and I can run media here, navigation here. And I can run them at the same time.
How did you swipe that? I didn't quite see it.
So
what's the trick?
It's swiping down.
Okay, it's just literally just swiping down.
So and same with the steering wheel control, when you slide left or right, it'll be doing the same action I'm doing here. And whichever one you want to pick, you just slide that tile down, and it immediately shows up here.
Gotcha.
So say the passenger wants to search for the next destination, you swipe it down here, they can access that while I can still pick what album I want to listen to.
That's a 34-inch screen, if memory serves, on the dashboard?
OLED.
Yeah, an OLED. So the very dark blacks, very bright colors.
Very dark blacks. In Gravity, we have detox mode. And in detox mode, we can make all these features go away, and the beauty of an OLED screen is you get the blackest black, so you can literally drive around with just the speedometer in front of you. So at night, long late night drives, you don't want all this distraction of light in your face, this can all go away.
It's Friday, you've had a long, hard week
Exactly.
at the office, and you're mentally done.
That's it.
Engage that mode and free yourself of distractions then.
So also getting into that same kind of situation, we've added a sanctuary mode to the vehicle. So we have something called Lucid Spaces. And imagine you get home from work, or you're pulling off the road because you just had a long day and you want to take a little relaxation, or while charging. We have these different moments in the vehicle that can kind of get you out of the city and place you in some of your favorite places. And this can be updated through the lifetime of the car, so we will have different updates to location. Currently, these are the options we have. So this is Santa Monica. And not only does this experience go with just the screens, but also with the animated lighting through the front of the cabin.
So what, you would use this while parked or something to sort of just relax?
Exactly.
Clear your mind. Very nice. That's very immersive too.
Yeah, and the clarity you get out of this wraparound OLED screen that's seamless is very impressive.
Aside from the technology in this SUV, the design inside is beautiful as well. Talk to me about the challenges of doing that. We see a lot of automakers with very busy designs these days. It's like the team doesn't know when to put the pencil down and sort of step away, right?
Yeah.
How do you deliver that?
For Lucid, even from when we started Air, we really look into California landscapes for inspiration. And I know that comes off as like, well, you're not putting trees in the car, right? But we look at landscapes, and we look at different types of locations in California. Key for me is the light and dark you see throughout landscapes and lighting. So we use a lot of waves and these type of elements throughout the vehicle to accentuate the space for the occupants. So you can see in the doors, we push the door package to be as thin as possible at the IP connection, and that allows the IP to be as wide as possible. This enhances the space and width and the perception of space for the consumer. We also have this wraparound architecture that carries our CMF themes around the front occupants, kind of encapsulating them in this cozy front end cabin. Then even onto our details, we have these all natural woods, and we still have physical controls.
Very important.
Combination of physical controls and really nice craftsmanship in the areas that you touch is very important for our DNA. We also minimalize the location of areas you touch. So doors alone, you have window switches, door trigger, or door release in the same location. And when you touch that area, we make sure to have the highest quality materials in that location. That way we don't have to put things that feel good in areas that you don't normally touch. It's a very nice way of organizing this quiet luxury style that we have.
You mentioned physical controls a moment ago. I think part of the problem people have with touch screens and sometimes with touch sensitive controls is a bit of lag. It's just not quite a one-to-one.
Yes, understood.
How do you minimize that when you're designing these?
So we point out the physical controls that you use most of the time, at the highest frequency. And we want those to be physical because the risk of lag, right? So steering wheels, still physical controls. We have all your controls for media and ADAS and cruise control. Still have stalks, the rate where you need them, the rate where you remember them to be. And like our wipers, our control from the left stalk to here is very close, so you keep that same understanding of this is my quick wiper control, but here's my deep dive. Onto these controls. So just like air, we have our temp and fan controls, which are something I use every day, and I don't want to take my eyes off the road while using them. So while driving, I can reach down and I know exactly where they are at all times. Same with the volume roller. But additionally, in Gravity, now that we've moved the center screen up and made it landscape for more media options, we've added 2 customizable physical controls. So now your favorite controls, you can decide what you want these to be. So this could be glove box, this could be air suspension, ride height.
Very nice.
Very important feature for us to keep throughout all the Lucid vehicles.
A couple great stories in the second and third rows of seats in this vehicle, but before we get to that, I wanted to ask you, what about sustainable materials? What are you guys doing in that area?
So sustainable materials, we have options for, even our leather is from the best option out there where they use all of the animal in the greatest way as possible, but then into all our synthetic materials, they're fully recyclable. Same with our woods, all natural. For the design of Gravity, we looked into mid-century modern furniture, and our biggest tie-in for that is the center console. So when we did the console design, we were looking at, do we do open consoles, do we do high center consoles, and basically it came down to how understanding how the user uses the space. So this is kind of our space within a space concept of the interior. So we decided on a high center console. The mid-century tie-in is our coffee table design. This is a tempered glass cover for the center console, so you can hide all your storage when you're out of the vehicle. This slides forward to show off our tray. So first is our tray. This holds key fob and pens, cup holders, and full charging mat for 2 phones or AirPods, anything like that. Not only are these the typical conveniences you expect to see in a vehicle, but being Lucid, we optimize the space underneath. So this slides forward, and when you see this opened up, you can utilize all of this space throughout the console. And we'll offer these bento boxes as accessories, and the benefit of these is this fits like a Stanley cup or a large Yeti thermos. So the setup for that option, we've even designed that you can have your phone in this position, you can have a larger drink and the armrest closed at the same time.
Look at that.
And that's so low that your large drink is still below the armrest line, not to impede your access to the physical controls.
It's like you guys thought of this and then tested it first.
Many times, many variations.
Very thoughtful, very
Thanks.
thoughtful.
All right, now coming into the second row of Gravity. So this is our bench seat option for Gravity, and you have a lot of legroom here. Not only do you share that space with the third row, but because of our track design, you can really optimize legroom for first row, second row, and third row. A great new feature for Lucid is our answer to rear screen entertainment. And for that, we call it bring your own device. So new in Gravity is our rear seat table design. So we've decided that the best option is having people to bring their own device. So now we have these tables built into the back of the seat. You can place laptops here, iPads, and you have USB-C charging in the back of the seat.
That's perfect. Show me the mechanism. That was pretty
Yeah.
slick.
It's a 4-bar connection
Oh, wow.
right into the seat.
That's brilliant. I like that. What's the rationale of not having separate screens? Is it just that your own devices are going to be more up to date and more familiar?
So the way we see it is, people update the devices sometimes twice a year, right? So to keep up with that, our answer to that is just having a way to connect that device to the vehicle. So think we will have apps that kind of mirror what goes on in the center screen, that the passengers can have the same amount of control. Not only can they do that with their screen, but we also have an OLED screen on the back of the center console for extra controls of HVAC and seat controls. And
also, lots of legroom in the second row,
yes.
headroom, and I'm sure the H point is pretty high as well.
Yeah, tons of legroom and tons of headroom, but really optimized to, you'll see when we get into the third row what we could achieve by optimizing this. We've really optimized this space with the motor design, the packaging. I mean, this is shrink wrapped right around that technology. And then behind here is the area the third row seat goes behind the motor bay. Our legroom's really optimized. I'm 5'8". I have tons of space in front of my legs and a good amount of space above the head. So this area is definitely optimized for aerodynamics, but I think we hit the great middle point for interior and exterior. Not only do you have a good bit of space in the third row, but you have a lot of amenities. So armrests, you have some phone storage or any type of storage you want up here. We have a USB-C cup holder and HVAC ventilation for the third row occupants.
Everything you need.
Exactly. Everything you need for a long road trip in the third row.
Yeah. Was it difficult to integrate a third row into this vehicle that's adult-friendly, adult-sized?
Very difficult, but I would say, 80% of our focus was the occupant package of getting the third row perfectly to fit in this vehicle. It's not only important for the size of the occupant to sit here comfortably, but how it stows away behind the motor bay. So you can really drive it as if it doesn't have a third row at all.
When you've got both rows folded, how much cargo space is there?
The exact dimension, I can't quite remember right now, but I know an 8.5-foot surfboard fits diagonally.
Okay.
And you can also fit like 2 mountain bikes. We have a bunch of different accessories set up for when the second row is folded flat and the third row is stowed in the trunk.
So as the interior designer, what was the biggest challenge in working on this vehicle, and what are you most proud of?
The biggest challenge is, I'd say, a day-to-day challenge in how to optimize packaging with engineering and design. But we do that from front of the cabin to the rear of the cabin. That's my passion. I love doing that with the team. The most exciting thing for me, like getting the OLED screen for the screen housing, you can see just how thin that housing is for the magnesium casting. The floating screens, the physical details, we put a lot of love into that. And finally, the glass center console coffee table. I mean, first one to market with glass in production. It's really brings the class of the vehicle up another notch.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Zeb. I appreciate this very detailed walk around.
Thank you.
There is so much to be excited about here, except perhaps for one thing, and that is the weight. This new Lucid is not expected to go on sale until the end of this year. When it does arrive, however, it should start at less than $80,000. Now, if you don't feel like waiting, but you still want to drive a battery-powered vehicle, consider the Genesis electrified GV70. It does not offer 3 rows of seats, but it's still a lovely vehicle. Click right over here to check out my full review now.